Okay, I'm getting somewhere. We'll do entire screen. Share. Okay, now you can see my screen. This is what I wanted. Okay, thank you for your patience, everybody. Now I'm going to show you here how, see, this is what I can do. If I want, I can switch over, and now you're seeing what I'm seeing. This is the Roosh V Forum. So today, I'm going to share with people about this Roosh V Forum. This isn't the whole show. This is going to come at the end of the show. I'm giving you a little preview here. But this is what I'm going to talk about here. I'm going to talk about this website because I believe it's a valuable resource for people. You can learn, there's a lot of, you can learn a lot of things here. There's all sorts of, what it is it's an online forum where, you can ask questions and you can post memes or articles and have discussions with people. Okay, now I'm going to come back to me. Because we're going to get to that at the end. Too shiny on your phone. Okay. So we're going to come back to that. We're going to come back to, where's my outline here? Okay. So later on in today's stream, I'm going to be talking about the Roosh V Forum. I'm also going to tell you guys a story about the time I met Roosh, which is going to be interesting. But before I get into that, I'm going to say I want to go a little backwards here. I finally heard back from YouTube about the article that got deleted. And so I had this, I had posted not an article, but a tiny. What's tiny? Oh, too tiny on your phone. Okay. This is the one I'm on. Okay, anyhow. Yeah, so I had posted a video, not an article. I posted a video in which part of what I was talking about, the video was about marriage. It was called Should You Get Married in 2022? And YouTube, they didn't like when I was talking about the stabs, and they deleted the video. But part of what I was talking about in that video, I spoke about the red pill, and so I want to go back over what I was talking about there in the red pill section of that video. And this will all tie into Roosh, who was he was involved in the red pill community. He was called one of the godfathers, actually, of the red pill. And he was around basically from the beginning in that whole community. And of course, and then eventually people know his story. He's famous for it. Eventually he converted to Orthodoxy, and it is actually a great, he is, his example is a great, it's very instructive for us as Orthodox, because it shows that God is merciful and he can work his power even in the greatest of sinners. So I did have that video deleted, and they finally got back to me and said, yeah, I appealed the decision, and they finally got back to me and said, yeah, we're going to stick with our decision. And I think they have made a mistake, because this really kind of upsets me a little bit. It actually motivates me. It's lighting a fire under me that what they did in deleting my video. It's motivating me to work even harder to fulfill, in this work that I'm doing here with this YouTube channel. So big mistake, YouTube. You're getting under my skin, and I'm not going to let it go. So in that video, I did a little bit of a dissection of the red pill, and I'm going to go backwards and and talk about what is the red pill. So everybody knows the movie Matrix. The Matrix, they had the scene where you can take the red pill or the blue pill. The red pill, you know the truth, and your eyes are open and you see the truth. The blue pill, you go back to sleep. Now, the term red pill began to be used. The red pill began to be used as a term for the seduction community, actually. In the early 2000s, there was an online community was formed where guys were getting onto forums and they were starting, on the internet, and they were sharing their stories about how to basically sleep with women. And so that kind of developed over, the next decade or whatever or so. And the red pill became known about this. It was supposed to be the truth. Oh, I'm sorry. It was supposed to be about the truth about women. Sorry about that. OBG is feeling black-pilled. Let's say a prayer for OBG. Let's get her some white pills. Maybe we can feed her some white pills in today's stream later on. But so. So the red pill, it actually evolved into a term. Now the term means it's almost more synonymous with truths about, uncomfortable truths about different topics, especially politics. And it's kind of evolved to be this broad term, all-encompassing term. But originally, it was the meaning. The use of the term was for sharing truths about women and relationships with women. And so, guys, they struggle with this. A lot of guys, they struggle, and maybe they're not having success. Maybe they're not having success with women. And so they go online and they try to learn, because you're not born. Women think that guys are born understanding women and that we should have this innate knowledge and how to deal with them. But no, it's not true. When you're born, you don't have any, there's no, instruction manual for how to deal with women. And it's a very difficult thing. They're complicated creatures and we don't understand it. And so guys, naturally, they want to learn about it. And so they go online and they start reading. And so there was a period of time in my life when I was reading this kind of material because, when a number of years ago, the bishops got together and they decided that because of my mental illness, I was not able to become a monk. They said that was their decision. And so I just thought, okay, well, if I can't become a monk, maybe I'll start trying to find a wife. And I spent several years actually actively engaged in that, trying to find a wife, trying to date and doing all that. And I was my whole life long, I was not very successful. I wouldn't say I was successful in the realm of relationships. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but I wasn't very successful. And then one day I was talking to my friend, and this friend was actually the person who I will term White Rabbit, who I read his conversion story on one of my episodes a while back. And White Rabbit said, you should go to this website. And he directed me to a website called Chateau Heartiste. And this was another one of the godfathers of the red pill. His guy named Chateau Heartiste. Originally, his name was Royce. And so, I had sort of an inner aversion. I didn't really want to start reading this stuff, but I thought, well, if my friend's recommending it, then maybe I'll just check it out. And so I started reading everything that Chateau Heartiste had written about women, and I did a deep dive. I just for a whole week, I just read every post he had on women. And I actually started trying to put these ideas into practice, and I found out that they actually were rather effective. It was interesting. There were some attitudes in there that were kind of harsh for a Christian to read now. So when I tell my advice about reading this kind of material, this red pill material, is you have to be cautious. If you are a Christian, should you be reading red pill material? I don't know. I would caution people against it, actually. If you're reading the stuff, a lot of the red pill stuff that you read online is geared towards fornication. It's not geared towards meeting a wife and establishing a family. But some of the things that you learn when reading this kind of stuff can be useful in finding a wife, I believe, and having a healthy relationship with a woman. So my advice is that you should be well grounded in the faith before you start reading this stuff, because if you're not well grounded, you might start getting dragged off and be tempted to do things that aren't. You have to have some discernment and be able to discern what is right and what is wrong, and that takes a little learning this discernment to be able to discern truth and falsehood, right, wrong. That takes practice. So if you're not well firmly established in the faith, I would caution people and say I would try to maybe not start diving right into this red pill stuff. And I will also say that when I was reading it, I didn't read just Royce. I read just about everything that there was. Like, I did a real deep dive on this red pill stuff. And I probably wouldn't have done that, except that at that time, I was going off my medication, and I think I was having a hypomanic episode that lasted for the better part of a year. So for the better part of a year, I was just kind of maybe not making the best decisions, and my judgment was actually kind of clouded because I was going off my medication. So warning to everybody out there about that. Now, so while I was reading this stuff, I came upon Roosh's stuff. I read some of his articles, and he actually had some knowledge and understanding about matters of the heart. It's an emotional intelligence. And then, so all of a sudden, this has happened, I think, providentially, that while I was reading Roosh and getting into some of his kind of material that he was putting out there, he was starting to turn and become Christian. And this was towards the end of 2018, 2019, people started seeing the change in Roosh. He was sort of, he was starting to cling to his faith. And he had some difficulties in his personal life, which was a crisis of faith happened to him, and it drove him towards God. And he started talking. Here's this guy on the internet that I was interested in, starts talking about orthodoxy. And people didn't know at first that he necessarily know that he was Oriental Orthodox. So people were, even Orthodox Christians were like, who's this guy talking about orthodoxy, And so he came back from Europe. He was living in Europe as a way to, a way to meet attractive women. And he came back and he organized this tour of the United States, and he put together a speech, and he was touring all of these cities, and he was driving around cities in the United States, and it was his Babylon Road Tour, he called it, and he was giving a speech. And so I decided that it would be a worthwhile endeavor to go and see his speech. And when he came to Portland, I bought a ticket. And this was the end. This was I believe, if I remember correctly, it was towards the end of 2019. A very tense time. This was kind of leading up to this big election a little bit. And in the United States, there was a lot of tension in the air. And Roosh sent out this email. He said, the location of the speech will be undisclosed. I will send you an email the day of the speech, because he was worried, and rightly so, that if some leftists on the internet found out that he was coming to Portland, they might demonstrate, and it would be dangerous for people to come. They might come show up with Antifa or whatnot. That was a very real danger. Luckily, nothing like that happened. So I bought my ticket. I drove up there, and I gave myself plenty of time to find the location, find parking. I don't know Portland all too well, so I gave myself plenty of time before I showed up. And so I got there, and it was like the door to the room opened about half an hour before the speech was to begin, and I was the first one to arrive. And so I got there early because, I thought, well, okay, I've got half an hour. What should I do? Should I go to a store and maybe go look to try on buy some boots or something? I didn't know what to do with my half an hour. So I just decided, well, the door's open. I'm going to go early. And so I got there. I was the first one to show up half an hour early as soon as he opened the door. And when Roosh saw me there, he thought it was kind of strange that I had gotten there so early. He thought, well, most people, they don't come quite right on the dot when the door opens. So he thought that was a little strange. But my impression of him when I first saw him, he was very withdrawn within himself. And I sort of thought maybe this guy, he gave me the impression that he might be a recluse. Sort of as the night went on and, carried on, he gave a speech, he answered questions, and after that, he, there was some time and he was just hanging out with people, and he sort of came out of himself and became more amiable. But here's an interesting story that happened. I think Roosh, because he thought I was a strange person. He got a strange impression of me because I came so early, that when at the very beginning, when people were just kind of chatting among themselves, he tried one of his, I think what it was one of his red pill tricks he had learned, and he AMOG'd me. So what he did was an AMOG is like this red pill term. It means alpha male of the group. And it's when you put down another male to raise your status among the group. And he actually did that to me. And I thought, when that happened, I almost thought about leaving, and before he even made the speech. But I thought, oh, well, I paid for this. I'm just going to stick around and see what he has to say. So I sat through the speech, and he taught, he gave his stories, 10 things that he learned or whatever it was. And because I had felt a little bit offended from him, I made sure to ask him a very pointed question when it came to the Q&A time. And I wasn't going to let him off with a softball question that I might have given him if that had not happened. But I think it was all providential in the end. Things happen for a reason. I basically asked him, well, you're talking about orthodoxy. Are you ever going to become Orthodox? And his answer was, well, at the time he didn't understand what Orthodoxy was. And his answer was, well, Eastern Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox are so close that the difference is really doesn't matter, he said. But obviously he was going to change. He was to change his ideas as time went on. So that was the time that I met Roosh, and I followed him. I began following his work from that moment on. So Roosh was he was the godfather of the red pill. And I'm losing my voice. I'm getting a little winded here. I'm getting a little tired. Take a sip of water. Now how about more about the red pill? I want to talk a little bit more about that. The things that it talks about are things that you wouldn't say. You're not allowed to say these things on TV. They talk about ideas that would offend, it would offend normies and feminists, for example, the red pill, people in general, they do not recommend men get married today in today's environment. And the reason for that is because the divorce rates are so high. We've got no fault divorce, and the court system is the court system is rigged against men. So anytime, if a guy gets married, anytime a woman wants for any reason or for no reason at all, that woman can go to the court, say, I want a divorce, and get half his stuff. And this incentivizes women to get divorced here in America. Now, if you're an Orthodox Christian, of course, you have to, if you want to have a relationship with a woman, the only course of action you have is to get married. So a lot of these things are not necessarily Christian truths. But the idea that so that's one example of something that you got to be careful about in reading this stuff. Some of these truths are not necessarily Christian, but there are also things that you will read there that could help you. And here's another example that I'm going to give that could be helpful, and one of these, and what it is they'll talk about single moms, for example. Now, if you're just some nice guy and you're going along and you meet some woman and she has a kid, you're going to be, you're without having read the red pill, you might think, okay, well, she has a kid. I'm not going to judge her. I'm going to give her a chance. Well, why should she, because of some mistake she made, why should she, have to not be, why should I not give her a chance? But what you don't know is that a woman who, this is going to be a burden. If you need to think about it, you need to think twice before you start dating a single mom, because first of all, you're going to have to spend time, energy, effort, and money raising this kid who is going to most likely hate you and resent you. That's just the way it is. More often than not, kids of parents who got divorced and then they married someone else, the kids hate the dad or the new parent. And the woman is going to be damaged from that previous divorce, from going through this emotional turmoil of a divorce. And women who have had previous relationships, they have a difficult time pair bonding. Every time a woman has a new relationship, and this is studied scientifically, in the future, they're going to have a more difficult time forming a pair bond with someone. So this is an example of a truth that might help you out if you're a Christian man trying to find a woman. These are good things to know. But you're not allowed to say this on TV, for example, because it's the feminists will start screeching. How dare you? How dare you empower men? And basically, because women want all the power now. Another example of a red pill truth that you're not going to want to hear is, well, maybe we shouldn't have. This is not in relationship to relationships, but this is about how dare you? How dare you? I'm reading Alexander. You must be back. You must be back home. Back from, what was I going to say? Here's another red pill truth. We probably should never have given women the right to vote. This is the kind of thing that people talk about. That's a red pill. I just gave you one. Like, that's a fastball. But that's not in the red pill community. That's the truth about politics. That's probably true. If we had never given women the right to vote, then abortion would be illegal in all 50 states by now. Down with the 19th, Alexander says. Alexander just is back from Mount Athos. So I have a little bit of holiness in the chat room today. He still has the holiness rubbed off of him. Okay. Let's see. Now, let me go on. Okay. So that's also one more thing I want to say. Okay, today's scripture reading. I always choose a scripture reading. Now, this is going to be Matthew 9:10 through 12. So when I went off to see Roosh and go and see his talk, I was careful not to tell other people, some certain people in church, because sometimes, the ladies, they gossip. And if they knew that Daniel was going to see a pickup artist, they might judge me. But here, hear what the scripture says. And it came to pass, as Jesus sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. Now, if I had, if I was going up to see Roosh, an evident sinner. He was teaching men how to fornicate, But imagine if all Orthodox people had just shunned him and not given him the time and not interacted with him. He never would have become Orthodox. Shame on you for judging him if you did that, because look how he turned his life around. This is like a shining example of the power of God. That's why Roosh's story is so important. So, there's even Orthodox, believe me, there are people who would have fallen for this, they would have wanted to judge him for what he did. And they wouldn't have wanted to talk with him, but if you go back and you watch, you can look this up on YouTube, watch the call that Spiridon Bailey made to Roosh when he was doing his call-in show. Spiridon Bailey called Roosh, and it was a masterful example of Father Spiridon, of reaching out. This was a masterful example of what is the word I'm looking for? Missionary activity in action. That's what it was. He just beautifully done, Father Spiridon. If you're ever seeing that, congratulations to you on that call. It was just so well done. And then a few months later, Roosh was baptized on Holy Saturday at Holy Trinity Monastery. And I like Roosh. I follow his work. Especially, I feel a sort of a kinship with him because because he's Armenian and I also am Armenian, and I sort of, people groups have, races, they have certain characteristics, certain psychology. And I feel like because of that, we have a certain shared psychology, but also because he's in the Russian church and he's learning the Russian tradition. And he's not, among all these Orthodox people you see online, he is not, what he's not doing is doing this whole apologetics and argument and, the theology of the Orthodox Church. That's not what he dives into. He reads the kind of books that I like to read. He reads monastic books and, St. Ignatius and this kind of thing. So I think he's on the right path. I like the path he's on. And I can't wait to see what he grows into when he has enough years in the faith to be able to appropriate it and make it his own. I expect to see great things from him, because it does take time, but he's going to be well served. He reads like a book a week. And I know that because every week he does a book review on his blog. He writes an article. So, doing all that reading is just going to serve him well in the future. So good on him for that. Now let's get to the point. Let me share my screen, and I'm going to share the Roosh. I want to share the Roosh V Forum with you guys, because here. Okay, going to it. Now you guys can see. You can see my screen, and here we are at the Roosh V Forum. And I want to encourage everybody to go here and just familiarize yourself with it. Now, at first, you might just be a lurker. There is the ratio of lurkers to actual members is quite high. So there are several thousand members. I don't know how many active there are. There are thousands of active members. But there are many more thousands who just come and read it, and they never register. So I would suggest that you come here and you register. You just fill this out, male. You will male, female. You want to choose. This is now this site is this site is anonymous, so you don't want to reveal any information about yourself. So you will choose a username that does not identify you, and you will preferably use a burner email. That was what it says in the instructions for signing up. So it's not so you won't get in trouble at work for what you post on the internet. And here, you fill this out. You will show your religion. This is now, because this site, which used to be dedicated to seduction, it was a red pill site, but is no longer. Now it is actually a Christian forum. So this is, people go online to find their information. They might go to 4chan, or they might have their favorite, places. This is one of my favorites, but people have their favorite places to go. But the good thing about this site is that it is heavily moderated. It is a Christian site, so you won't see any pornography. There's no cursing allowed, so there won't be offensive. Sometimes the chats get spicy, but you won't. There's no offensive language. So here you see, and for example, see, look, stop cursing challenge. This is, Christian men encouraging each other to do better. Now, before you start, you want to go to the forum rules and read the rules. Too many people make the mistake of coming to the site and they don't read the rules, and then they get suspended and they don't know why. Obviously, you didn't read the rules. So read the rules. Here's Roosh's avatar. He just changed it. He used to be a cardinal. So he's Orthodox cardinal. He's the only one who gets the cardinal. Everyone gets a little bird name. According chicken means you're new. According to how many posts you've made, you get labeled with a bird. And then you get a little badge that says Orthodox, if you're Orthodox or whatever Christian denomination you are. I mean, even if you're atheist, you can proclaim you're atheist and you'll get a little badge. Now, a lot of people don't know that there are gold membership upgrades that you can get here. If you come here on the second page of the forum rules, most people on the site probably don't know this, I'm guessing, but because they never read it. But you can make a modest donation to the site, which is only $21, and you'll get this badge, gold member. See it right there? You will get a gold member badge, and that will give you distinction in the forum if you decide to register. And I do recommend registering. I mean, you might be a little nervous at first to do it, but just do it. Jump in with 2 feet into the water. Let's go home here. And here's the latest post. People, what people are talking about. Here's on top, Orthodox Christianity, the first section, because that's the most important part of the site. This is an explicitly Orthodox Christian website. And so, for example, if you're new to the faith and you're learning about it, you can come here, go to inquirers and catechumens, and you can, if you have a question about the faith, you can create a post a thread. You can read what other people are saying. Read the guidelines like always. And there are some very good posters here. Like, for example, this guy right here, Lawrence 87. He will give you an excellent answer to your question if you have a question about orthodoxy. Be careful. This is an online forum. Anyone can post anything they want, or almost anything. And so you might get some good answers. You might get some bad, but we have this is a good group of guys. There's guys from all over the world, Europe, down, South America, there, Australia. People are from all over the world here, and they'll come on. And so, if there's some news story that is breaking, for example, like the Kanye West thing, you can go to the Kanye West thread and you can find out what all were the, what's the whole deal. People will post stories, articles, memes, everything. You'll all in one place. You'll know everything you need to know about the story here, all in one place. Here's a good one. I'm not going to click on this, but look at this one. Memes and GIFs that will instantly trigger leftists. This is a great thread. Whoever was the first person to to post that thread, I congratulate that person. That's a great one. So you can find out, here's current events, culture, all these different things. Women are also allowed, but they have fewer privileges. I don't think they're allowed to post. They're only allowed to post in this section. So there you go. Come back to StreamYard. Oh. Hopefully, was my audio on when I was on there? Anyhow, that was one of what I wanted to show you there about that. This has gone on quite a while. I think quite a long stream. Is there anything else I want to say about this? One more thing. I got a joke to tell you. Now, the Orthodox Church is full of sinners, and there's room for more. That's a popular joke that's passed around, and it's true. We want sinners. We don't want you righteous people in the church. We have no room for righteous. You don't need the church. The sinners need the church. Come to the church, all you sinners. We don't need the righteous people here. We have no need for righteous people in the church. We want the sinners. That God, we want your sin. We want to take away your sins. We want to help you to turn your life around. Oh, audio was fine. Great. My Armenian brother. Yes. Okay, so I think that's the end of the stream for today. Thank you, everybody, for participating and for watching. And we'll see y'all next time. Young Penitent is out.